I'm Mr. Gazda. Here is homework 22, units, and rounding. What I did here is, this is focused on units in math. And I did, the numbers are really easy. Look, all the numbers are going to be 1 to get students to really focus on units. Students have such trouble remembering or working with units. I didn't want to get caught up on miles per hour or feet per day or degrees per minute, anything sort of units that they're used to. So I made up these crazy units. They're crazy. It seems crazy. I know it. That was kind of part of my point. So check this out. Here is some of the examples. And one thing I do want to point out is you have something like, I do want to point out that you have like 7 over 7, as you know from math, equals 1. Anything over itself equals 1. 15 over 15 equals 1. And we're going to do the same thing with units. So this has 1 reet over baz times 1 baz over crink. Now, what we want to do is try to simplify this all we can. And notice baz on the bottom here and baz on the top. That will end up giving you, if you were to do that, that section of it would be baz over baz, and that is basically something over itself. It basically equals 1, so therefore we can kind of cancel those out because it's just going to be 1 and everything multiplied by 1 is itself. So what we do here is, and always do the units first, everybody. Do the units first, and again on this one the math is really simple for that reason. So these cancel out, but the reet is still there and the crink is still there, so your answer you get is 1 reet over crink. Yes, it's crazy sounding, I admit that. This is 1 pon over dren times 1 pon. Now, you see there's nothing on the denominator here, so put that over 1, because you can do that, you know that from math, and then do the math. Now, can I cancel anything out, simplify it? I can't, but what I get is pon times pon equals pon squared, and dren times 1, which is the denominator here, is on the bottom, so your answer is 1 pon squared over dren. Alright. Let's go on to these here. So that was just going through the example. So here I have 1 clat times 1 clat. So clat, do the units first, everyone. Trust me on this one. Clat times clat equals clat squared, and then 1 times 1 is going to be 1. So here we go. 1 jert over zalp times 1 zalp. So I got to put this over 1, and then I want to see if I can simplify. Well, I have a zalp on the bottom, zalp on the top, so they can cancel each other out. Okay. And then I have the 1 here, and I have, so that's going to be just jert over 1, which is just going to be jert. And then the number here, 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, this is, check this out, 1 falp over crum times 1 falp over crum. And the times is key. Subtraction and addition are different than this. And division is a whole other thing. We're not going to do that. But I can't cancel any out from the denominator to the numerator, but what I have is, again, do the units first. I often put squares around them to kind of show that. Falp times falp is falp squared, and then crum times crum is crum squared, and then 1 times 1 is 1. So that's your answer. 1 falp squared over crum squared. May not be things you've seen yet, but learn this now. Trust me, because as you go on in school, the units will get definitely more complicated. And I teach physics, and they have there's a lot of working with units in classes such as physics and chemistry. So here I now have 3 things I'm multiplying, and because I have a number on the bottom here, I want to put these over 1, and then I want to see what I can do. So to simplify it, so this here is a noof. And there's 1 on the bottom, 1 on the top, so they cancel out. And then I have splee times splee, so I get 1. So I get splee squared, and then 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So hopefully you're getting a sense of how this works. This here, I have this. I do see I have. I got to put this over 1, and then I want to try to simplify if I can. Oh, I see this is on the bottom. A galug. It ends in a Q. It's kind of a weird word. And then, oh, this too, a stimn is on the top and stim's on the bottom. So those all go away. What I have left is a quipe. And again, 1 times 1 times 1, 1 quipe. Alright. Now, this is a little different. This is of addition. Now, anytime you do this, try to think of things in the real world. And, you could say, 1 soda plus 1 soda equals 2 sodas. So think of it that way. It's not soda squared. In this case, it's just a sum. So the plussing, the adding, and the subtraction is a little bit different. So the answer here is going to be, the unit will be sum, and it will be 2. Alright, so be aware of those things, whether it's plus or minus or multiplication in this case. And 1 glurf times 1 glurf times 1 glurf. So do the math. Glurf times glurf times glurf equals glurf. Hopefully you can realize this. Glurf to the 3rd power, we say glurf cubed. Okay, and then 1 times 1 times 1. Okay. 8. 1 pond times 1 pond times 1 reet per pond. Reet over pond. We also call it reet over pond or reet per pond. And so put those over 1 and see if there's any simplification. Well, there's a pond on the bottom. There's 1 up top. There's 2 up top. So this one cancels out with that. There's nothing to cancel out with that. So what I get is pond times reet. Now this, I will say, is, we would write it like this. This is pretty out there, and this is well above 9th grade. But just know this. We're not going to use anything like this, really, but just the idea of the math, I put that in there because you can get that. 1 pond times reet. And again, upper level classes in science, I do actually have to use this. So, but that is definitely one of the more tricky ones here. So here I want to get this over 1, and then do I have a, let me see, I have a falp, and this falp cancel out. And then I have zalp times zalp, so that's going to give me zalp squared, and then the term is on the bottom, and then the number is just 1. And then here, this is subtraction now. 3 clat minus 2 clat equals, just like you were subtracting anything else, 3 Legos minus 2 Legos is 1 Lego. So I'm getting 1 clat. Okay, let's go on to rounding here. Another really important skill that you're going to need to do a lot this year. So round to the nearest thousandth, 3 decimal places. I like to think, or tell students to remember, 1,000 has 3 zeros, so you round to the 3rd decimal place. Now the way you're going to do it is like this. So basically I say this is the 3rd decimal place. You look at the 4 and say, is that going to stay a 4 or become a 5? That's really the 2 things here that you could do. And what you do, you look at the number next to it. And you may know anything 4 or below will keep it a 4. If it is 5 or higher, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, it will push it up and become a 5. I think there's a phrase that's like 4 or below, let it go. 5 or above, give it a shove. Yeah, something like that. Apply that here. So that's a 5. That's going to make it be a 4. Your answer is, I'm sorry. That is a 5. That's going to make that 4 become a 5. So you got to write it like this: 0.05. Okay. So always, I just think you go right to that 3rd decimal place and look next to it. That 2, not 5 or above. So 8's going to stay the same. So it's going to be 21.928. Now, some of these things look weird. Just always go to the 3rd one. In this case, it's the 1,003rd one. And then I look over here. What's that going to do? That 6 is higher than 5. I'll make it go up. So it's going to be 6.001. Alright. Go to the 3rd decimal place. Look at the number next to it. That 4. 4 below. Let it go. So the answer is going to be 366.144. Okay. Here I go to, and I got to count, there's a lot of 5s here. Look at this 5, and then I look over here. This 5 here will make that be rounded up to a 6. So I got to make sure I copy it properly. 78.556. Okay, and then the 3rd decimal place here, I'm here, and that's just a 0. Now what's key? You have to write 0.09. You have to write this last 0. That's what round 3 decimal places in thousands. That's what that is. If you just write that, that is round to the hundreds, and it actually would be wrong. Okay. For these, round to the nearest 10th. 10th is 1 decimal place. 1 decimal place. Okay, and we're going to do this later in a little bit. 2 decimal places. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look here, and I look at this number right here, and it is going to be 6,884.0. Okay, this right here, look at the 9 and the 4 is 4 below, let it go. Answer here, 2.9. Okay, for number 19, I will look at the 0. I will look right over here, and that gives me 7.0. This may be a little challenging. If you look right here, okay, go to the 9. This 9 here will bump it up. It'll bump the 9 up to a 10. Now, hopefully you remember this from math class, that is going to then bump this up to be a 5.0. 5.0. And I know that you've covered that in math. Hopefully it does ring a bell. If you look at the 1 here, look at the 7 next to it. The 7 is higher than 5. It's going to make that become a 2, so 48.2. And then here I have 3. There's a 5 next to it, so it's going to become go up to a 4, so 13.4. All right, hopefully you kind of getting the gist of this. This last few here, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, and as I just wrote, that's 2 decimal places. 2 places after the decimal point. So I'm going to look at the 9, and the 1 there is going to make it stay a 9, so it's 66.49. What am I doing? 2 decimal places. I'm looking at this number here. It's going to stay a 0, become a 1. The number next to it's going to make it stay a 0, and that number was going to round to 0.00. Round to the hundredths. That's what that number is, and that's right. So I'm looking at hundredths. So I'm looking at this 7 here. And look at that 7 there. Is higher than 5. It's going to bump it up to an 8. So I have 28.78. Okay. Then I'm doing hundredths, so I'm at the 0. 2 places in. I look at the 8. The 8 will bump that up to a 1. So I have 999.91. Okay. Here, also, this one may be a little tricky, is that I'm looking here, that 6 will bump that up. So that 9 becomes a 10, and then that becomes a 0, and the 1 comes over there, and then the 1 carries over here. Hopefully you get the sense that what you will get from this is 1.00. Okay, so it's kind of like you have 99 cents and you're adding 1 penny to it and it becomes $1. That's kind of a good analogy comparison for this exact one. This one, 2 decimal places. So look here, it's all zeros here. So 8.80, and that that 0 has to be there for it to be rounded to the hundredths. This too, same basic idea. This is 16.00 as well, and again, not just 16. 16 would be the nearest whole number. 60, those 2 zeros, hold those places, say that they are zeros there. And then what do I have here? I have this, and that 7 is going to make it go up 592.99. So I know you've done rounding before. Hopefully it all comes back. And this is homework 22. Mr. Gazda, for all the fine people here at Gazdoni Productions. Thanks for watching Homework 22.